Hello and welcome back to 16 years and now King 3. Well, the adventure continues, and not in the way I would have thought, because here I am at HM Peterhead. It's a prison museum, and I've only gone a little way in, so I just want to try and make a video so I can sort of describe the sort of place that it is turned into, and it actually does transcend all the way through it. Right, if we take our first little stop, you can see this and you think, well, what sort of a grim area was this? This was actually the exercise yard. My word. Top concrete metal wire, 15 foot long. I think it's a bit longer than that. Well, I'm just going by what the audio book says. So if it appears like I know a lot about this place, it's not because I was ever imprisoned here, it's just that I've been listening. But yeah, apparently a gentleman here once turned it into an aviary, and he had a set of wire cutters to fashion perches and things like that, and then decided, do you know what, let's cut a hole and escape. So he's basically cut the hole, gone up to the nearest building that goes up against the outside fence and wall, and leapt over to freedom. But he weren't there for too long because he got caught at a bus stop with the wire cutter still in his pocket. But there we go. There's a lot of relation to Shawshank Redemption that it brings in here. It really does. It does look just so imposing. 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of cells. My word. And these buildings are not exactly what you call small. But yeah, I'll take you inside the prison, and then I can show you step by step through the ages what the prison cells were like. And believe me, they're not big. But yeah, back in the 1800s, they were basically, it was convicts and hard labour, because they wanted the granite cut out. So they used the convicts to do it. And I'll get into the routine in a minute as we go through here. But you can imagine coming through this. I don't think that was originally glass, to be honest. I think that was more the case of wire mesh and everything like that. But yeah, if you were getting sentenced here, there is the outside world out there, and then through here you come. Should have more of a squeak there. And then yes, you enter into this hallway, and yeah, it is quite cramped until you get through to that area and it opens up a bit. But yeah, back in the late 1800s, this is the sort of cell you had. 2 hooks with a hammock, a Bible. You can guess that isn't for washing, because that bow up there is for washing, so you can imagine what they have to do with that stuff. Imagine being in prison and sleeping next to that all the time. It is quite bad. Yeah, and here's another one. Oh, and this one, he was lucky enough, he got a candle tray, but it's still the same bunk. So you can imagine how cold you used to get. And their routine was basically they were up at 5, beds made by 5:30, ready for breakfast, out to work by 6 through to 11:30. They worked, and then they got searched, and then they had lunch through to, and it was only things like soup or some stew and bread or potatoes. And then by 1 o'clock, I don't know, they had longer lunch breaks than us back then. 1 o'clock searched, and then back through to work until 5:30. And then they come to their cells. They got 3 hours of their own time basically, and then it was in your cell, lights out at 8:30, and that was it. You had no choice. But as we moved through into the turn of the new century, they started getting some lavish upgrades. Look at that. I don't think the paper was there back then, but you can see there's an actual bed. A bed, no doubt. You can actually walk into this cell. Here we go. Yeah, there you go. And you got your bed, a pillow, a safe, which they turned out to end up regretting that one. And then, they've got a little locker, some table, chairs there. Oh, and most of the guards walked around with a cutlass, like that. Yeah, you didn't really want to be on the business end of that, that's for sure. And as we move forwards and whatnot, they started to get a little bit more on the upgrade. But as you noticed, there's still no toilet. Cigarettes, polish your boots, you're allowed a picture of your loved one, a biscuit tin, some cards, and you still got your pot down there. Yeah, we say upgrades, but no, it's not that much of an upgrade. And then, of course, the trouble started erupting in Ireland, and then it got known as the era of the dirty protests. Yeah, I'm glad this looks more like mud than what it most really was, but you can imagine being a prison guard, having to walk into that. And sometimes they used to struggle with the prison officers, so they got covered in all of it. And there's a bit on the audio book from Patrick Stewart, not that one, that was doing it, and they used to literally, open up the door as quickly as possible, shove their food in and shut it so they didn't end up getting the smell of it. And then, of course, in the 1980s, what ended up happening was the famous riots. I mean, they barricaded themselves in. Proper barricaded themselves in, and they tore the place apart, as you can see by some of these photos, how much it was burnt down, how much it was trashed, they set on fire. And that same correctional officer, prison officer, whatever you want to call them, ended up being held captive by the prisoners, stabbed a couple of times, been put into prison uniform, and been threatened that he'd be set on fire. So it wasn't very good. Apparently it took the SAS to come in and sort it out, and the SAS were quite miffed because it took them longer than what they were expecting. But yeah, you can see how quite daunting this is if you look up there. I mean, proper, you can imagine Andy Dufresne in the cell down there. Otherwise it would have been, either that side or that side. But yeah, whatever way it was. And then, of course, as you come into the modern era, you've got, where the prison officer used to be in there, sorting all the paperwork out, making sure all the prisoners done what they were meant to do. And yeah, this guy freaked me out a bit, I must admit. Right, and then as we move into the modern era, because to keep control of him a lot easier, they've actually shut it into two places. And then, is this? What one's this? Oh yeah, this one's a bit gruesome because apparently there was a lot of gang warfare in here, and there was a bloke, which I can't remember the name. Oh, it was something bloody because he was Red Devil, I think it was, or something like that, because of the amount of blood that he spilled. And there was a rival gang leader, and I don't think he quite liked him all that much. Absolutely butchered him. And there's a picture there, and I think you can just about see the body underneath the chair. But wow, what a gruesome way. And it ends up the bloke that stabbed him ended up getting stabbed himself. So, no deed goes unpunished. And as we carry on moving into these modern eras, you can see how they used to barricade themselves during the riots and whatnot. So, yeah, all good fun and everything like that, I suppose. And then, I can't remember what's in here. Oh, here we go, and this is for the wardens. And apparently he got that for when he got married. That was his hat, his baton, his seal down here, his seal. Can you say? Yeah, just about. Seal to make paperwork, his minutes book, prison diary, and prison officer action code, basically. But yeah, you can see how things were starting to get a bit more lavish and lavish, and of course the game of cards. Cannot go without the game of cards. Right, bringing you to the point of what I was saying about the slot buckets, basically. What they had to basically do the number ones and twos in. They had to empty them, and the only space they had was in there. And you can imagine having to go in there, empty your slot bucket out. And you can imagine how many prisoners are here. So you can imagine the queue of managed to stand there, and you're at the back of the queue with your own everything in a pot, holding it for hour after hour as you're waiting to get in there. Not quite for me. Right, and then we come through to this way, and this is where it starts getting up to the more modern era with your table tennis and your pool. I always remember a story of one of my friends. He said he knew he was in prison basically when he seven-balled someone, and he used to do this thing of whistling and twirling his Porky, and the other inmate didn't take nice to that and wrapped his Porky around his face. And he said, I knew at that point I was in prison. And who would let people have darts? I really don't know. And of course, you've got the obligatory serving station. And of course, even when people were getting food, there was always people, you know, getting ratty about that they didn't want that, they didn't want to eat this. But yeah, but I must say one thing, if you come in here, is the kitchen. Ooh, it's a funky smell. Not bad. Look at that for a kitchen. I don't know of any restaurant that has kitchens to that size. And apparently they kept their own meat and whatnot. So mostly a lot fresher meat than most restaurants that I know of. But this is massive, everything on the industrial scale. You know what? And I love the way that they keep putting these mannequins in really stupid places so you end up freaking out. But yeah, that's the first part of this tour done. So other than that, like I always say, catch me in a bit, take it easy, keep adventuring, and love you, bye.